Your Excellencies, esteemed member of the Academy, distinguished guest. This year we mark 80 years since the end of the Second World War. 8 decades have passed since humanity declared never again, and the victors of the biggest conflict in their history laid the foundation for a new world, a world built of peace, democracy, human rights, and economic prosperity for all. The United Nations was created on a fundamental pledge to guarantee that peace. But 80 years later, here at this conference, we must ask ourselves a critical question. Has the promise been kept? Do we live in the world truly free from wars, injustice, and fear? Or are the mistake of the history threatening us once again? Is the vision of 1945 already fading? It is clear that wars have not disappeared. They have simply changed the form. They have become quiet, yet persistent. From Korea to Vietnam, from Yugoslavia to Syria, from Ukraine to Middle East, conflict have continued. Today, we witness new geopolitical tension and clash that remind us of old dangers. Unfortunately, we have not built a world without wars. On the contrary, never again has turned into always again, only with more complex and systematic threats. We are holding this conference not just to answer the difficult questions, but to ask the ones whose answer we must find together. That is why it is an honor to address you today in a time of great global challenges, but also rare opportunities for a turnaround. We live in a world that is no longer unipolar, but this world is still struggling to decide what it wants to be. This contradiction defined our task. We must reimagine the international order. We must create a framework where every civilization, every culture, every nation feel heard, recognized, and responsible. Today's world faces a polycrisis, a crisis not just of systems, but of meaning. It's a crisis that links the geopolitical conflict in Europe, the humanitarian disaster in the Middle East, and the existential threat of climate change. This is the clear signal that the old way of thinking are exhausted. The dominant worldview not only fails to offer a solution, but often create new problem itself. The best evidence for this crisis of systems of meaning is the annual United Nations General Assembly itself. Every autumn, world leaders gather to tackle the biggest global problems, yet every year end with the same bitter conclusion. The United Nations is paralyzed. This year, the main issue on the table, from the wars in Gaza, Ukraine, to the worsening climate and the humanitarian crisis, only reinforce the reality that the institutional established in 1945 lacked for efficiency and legitimacy to meet the challenges of 1995. If the world's largest body for the dialogue cannot achieve consensus of the basic human survival, that is clear that the dominant model is truly exhausted. We feel distrust, fatigue, and even resistance toward the Western vision of the world. But in the vacuum, new ideas, thinkers, and movements are emerging. From the West and the non-Western world, they hear increasingly clear voice calling for more equal, more ethical, and more inclusive global order. These thinkers do not call for confrontation, they call from dialogue. This dialogue is not luxury, or academic exercise. It's a political necessity. If we do not talk, we will clash. It must be a dialogue that acknowledges the world no longer has just one center, a dialogue that builds a pluralistic coalition of vision of human dignity. The imperative of institutional reform. Why is this essential? Because the existing model of hegemony, culture dominance, and economic imbalance is already in crisis. Because the world demands reform of its institution, the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, World Trade Organization. They must reflect the reality of the multipolar world. Above all, the UN Security Council must be reformed to reflect the current power and population of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, because we need a new global ethic, universal in spirit, plural in expression. The greatest threat to our common destiny, the climate crisis, knows no border and recognizes no hegemony. It demands united response from all of humanity based on universal ethic and solidarity. In the long shadow of Western dominance, society in the global South and non-Western world have developed their own worldview, reflect relational values and holistic idea about the community and nature. These alternatives are not ready-made recipes. They are source for new vision for humanity, society, and the planet. In an era when old ideas are no longer enough, listening to this voice is not just a matter of intellectual justice, it's a matter of the survival. These thinkers, activists, scientists, and artists offer us not utopian, but space for deeper reflection. They are a compass, not a map. They are an invitation to journey through idea, culture, and disciplines. Their goal is not to give final answer, but to ask the most essential questions. We need a generation that can live with the complexity of today, that can think with empathy and act with vision. Such a generation will be able to build a new order, not as a simple repetition of the old, but as an authentic response to our time. History teaches us this. Civilization do not die when they lose the power. They die when they lose the ability to listen. If we want a world with more voices, we must accept the truth of others. We must abandon the logic of civilizational competition and embrace the logic of common destiny. Therefore, let us not ask which model will win, but how we will collectively create a new one, a new agreement, a new language of cooperation based on respect, understanding, and ethical equality. 80 years after the wars, humanity has made enormous progress, yet we simultaneously face new challenges. The promise of the victors can still be fulfilled, but only if we choose the future of peace, solidarity, and dignity. If we don't learn from the past, we will repeat it. The decision is ours. I wish you a successful and fruitful academic debate, a dialogue that depends on our ability to think, feel, and act with responsibility, especially future generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.